Welcome to Sprinkle with Hope podcast. This is Jason.
And this is Shane.
And today we are going to be talking with Chad Hymas. He has quite an inspirational story and I love it. He will give a lot of really good pointers, so please listen up.
Jason and I were able to meet him a few years ago, and we, from that day forward, once we met him, we were so inspired. We know that you'll be inspired by his message and thoughts. He was listed in the, I believe, Wall Street Journal. Is that right?
That's correct.
As one of the top 10 most inspirational people in the world. So listen in.
Welcome to the Sprinkled with Hope podcast.
This is Jason.
And this is Shane.
And it's podcast time.
Hey, podcast family, welcome to Sprinkled with Hope with your host, Shane.
And Jason.
And if there is one thing that is constant in our personal and professional lives, it is change. You and I live in an era of unprecedented change and constant challenges. Chad Hymas is an example of how to deal with change and challenges. On April 3rd, 2001, Chad's life changed instantaneously when a falling 1-ton bale of hay broke his neck, leaving him a quadriplegic. Doctors said he would never walk again, and that for the rest of his life he would be confined to a wheelchair. But Chad's dreams were not paralyzed that day. Each of us will at times face challenges that might try to paralyze us, but they don't have to.
Chad is now a world-class wheelchair athlete playing basketball, full contact quad rugby, and he races marathons. Chad set a new world record by wheeling a personal marathon of over 500 miles from Salt Lake City to Las Vegas. Yet Chad counts as his greatest accomplishment the fact that he remains a devoted husband to his loving wife, Shondell, and proud father to their 4 children. Thanks, Chad, for joining us. And if you'd like to just give a little introduction about yourself, that'd be great.
Awesome, guys. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity, Shane and Jason. Where to start? Shondell and I, well, let's start in the beginning. And I'll make this kind of brief as I can. I grew up in a suburb of Salt Lake City called West Jordan, or named West Jordan, and Shondell and I met in high school. She's a year younger than I am, and after high school, I went and did some service in Thailand for a couple of years, and she went to college, and I came back home, and Shondell and I were married a few months later. The fire was still burning, I guess, and we I've always had this entrepreneur spirit, and I've always wanted to have my own business, and I knew what it was, and it's kind of a wild and wacky dream. I've always wanted to be a farmer. And I think I got that instilled in me from my uncle, who was a farmer full time. My dad went to help here and there on the ranch, and I fell in love with it as a young boy growing up, and looking forward to going out and helping with the cattle. My dream was to raise elk. I think elk are God's greatest and most majestic creature next to you and I, and so I always wanted to raise elk and horses, and so I just didn't have the capital or the money to build that dream. So I started a construction company. I had a little bit of construction background, but no formal education like my wife. Shondell's educated and has got a degree, and I did not do that. I started a company from scratch right as soon as we got married in construction.
Wow.
And grew that to 52 employees and earned enough capital to buy some raw ground where we built a house and put in fish ponds and elk fence and got our first 30 head in, and that took 6 years. So
Wow.
Shondell and I were married 6 years, and in that 6-year time frame we grew it to that, and also shared 2 boys together. Ace was 3 at that time, and Kyler was 1. And on April 3rd, 2001, 6 years after our marriage, a year and a half after we started building the ranch, a year and a half into that, I got a phone call that our youngest boy, it was a great phone call. I remember it just like it was yesterday. Our youngest boy just taking his first couple steps, and Shondell asked me to hurry home so I could play ball with him in the garage. And I told Shondell that I would hurry, but I had to stop by the field to feed our animals and to feed the elk. So I went up to the hayfield and got on a tractor, I loaded up a bale of hay that weighs more than most cars and lifted that bale up 15 feet in the air. And that's when I saw a red light flashing on my dash, an indicator that my hydraulics were low. So it'd be like the gas light or the oil light going off in your vehicle, and just kind of ignoring that. I did that because I gotten away with it before and never been hurt. So there's a little metaphoric message there that we can talk about if we decide to later on. But I ignored the warning signs. I ignored the warning light, and thus the bale rolled over backwards when I put the tractor in reverse and hit the brakes. Momentum carried that bale that weighs 2,000 pounds over and landed on my head, punching it through the steering wheel, and the shaft went through my mouth, breaking everything in its path, including all the vertebrae in my neck, and it severed 95% of my spinal cord. And I was able to live through that. I can't answer that for you, but that's where my new life was to begin. That was my pandemic. That was my first, probably my. Well, I think every current crisis that we go through is the worst crisis, just like we're going through COVID today. I think I've been through many pandemics, maybe a rejection in high school, or a prom doesn't go well, or breaking your neck, or a divorce. This is just one of those life journeys that we go through. Maybe it's a divorce or a marriage, or something doesn't happen right as we planned. And this certainly wasn't part of the plan. And so I am 95% numb today. It's been 20 plus years since that occurred. I'm numb from the armpits to the toes, and elbow to the fingertip on each side. I do have some use of my bicep and shoulder, which allows me a sense of independence. I'm sitting here in my vehicle watching our other son. So you met the two already virtually, or at least over the waves. But Shondell and I adopted two more. We adopted a little girl from Guatemala. She's now a junior in high school. And we adopted Caleb from Ethiopia. And he's now 11, and he's out here playing soccer. So I'm just kind of watching him while we're chatting here in the vehicle. So we have 4 children.
How awesome is that?
Shondell and I just celebrated 26 years, and I've been traveling for 20 of those, sharing a very personal message, and authored 7 books. And so that was not part of the plan. That just kind of happened that way. And so it's the farm has grown from 600 acres to 89 countries and all 7 continents. I've been able to share a personal message with organizations and companies, trying to help people be more engaged with each other, better communicators, better at building more influential teams, better at leadership. And so those are some of the areas that I've enjoyed studying and tried to transform and ride a new wave, as we're doing again today with COVID. I'm trying to ride a new wave.
Yeah, that's so awesome. We were able to listen to you at a company that you spoke at, and I know Jason and I fell in love with you the moment we heard you. Such an inspirational story. I'm curious, you had this dream of being a rancher. You have this accident, and what ultimately made you decide to be a public speaker?
That's a great question. I never wanted to do that. I don't know too many people that do enjoy public speaking, whether it's professionally or in a classroom for some thesis that they have to report out. And nobody likes to speak in front of a live audience, at least not people that I associate with. For me, it was force majeure. I live in a small community out in a farming community, as we've talked about earlier tonight, and for many months these farmers would come over and give us meals and take care of the animals on the farm, because I was obviously paralyzed. And Shondell, by the time we started our day and by the time we ended it, by the time I got dressed and we started to find a routine, it was like it was the end of the day, and she just had no time. Long story short, I during this time frame of me being home initially from the hospital, the first few months, I was so upset at God, blaming, not taking accountability, depressed, suicidal. I don't know, suicide, that's a strong word, but definitely those thoughts went through my mind that is this life worth living? That's definitely being authentic and real. Sure. And so I stopped going to church, and the pastor came to my house and asked me if I would come to church and thank the people that have been serving us, all these meals and taking care of the animals. So I disagreed. I didn't disagree with their service, but I disagreed with the theory of having to thank them in that manner. And it took some time, maybe 3 or 4 weeks, and I ended up actually going to church maybe 3 or 4 months after the accident. I don't quite remember how long it was, but I went to the church house and I wheeled my chair up the ramp, had somebody push me up there, and I had someone hold the microphone because my hands weren't working very good back then. And I hadn't learned to use my numb hands, let's put it that way. And so somebody held the microphone for me, and I gave about a 15-minute I was surprised at how fast the time went. I didn't talk about necessarily God, or I didn't mention the name of Jesus or Allah or Buddha or anything like that. I just told them the truth and how I was feeling, but I did want them to know how grateful I was. And I shared a few funny things that had happened to me. And then I shared exactly how I felt about this. And I was just still trying to find my path and my journey, and trying to figure out how to be married in this state and be a dad. And that was my message, really, at least to my recollection. After I was done with that, a guy came up out of the congregation and asked me if I would speak at their national convention in Vegas the next week in front of 400 contractors. And I obviously I didn't want to do that. And he told me, I didn't know how I was going to fly. I didn't know how I was going to get down there. I didn't know that I wanted to do it. I just didn't find any value in what I had to. I just felt so. I don't know if you've ever felt so low in life where you feel like you have nothing left to give to anybody. And there are many people in this world that feel that way right now. And that's exactly how I felt. I mean, your self-worth is just so down. And he said that he would like me to talk for 60 minutes. He said I could use notes. He said that he wanted to give me a 60-minute time slot. He said I didn't have to talk about God or anything like that. He wanted me to talk about the businesses that I'd grown and what my passions were, and about my entrepreneurship mindset and my desire to what I was going through struggling wise, and how I planned on overcoming that. And he wanted me to share that with 400 contractors. And so I did. And I used a lot of pictures from my accident and my shortcut. It ended up being the safety meeting. And then afterwards he came up and he gave me $500 bill, or $500 bills. And I thought that was weird. I said, I think there's a mistake here. And he says, no, we normally pay a lot more for our keynote speaker. And so here it is. And all of your airfare is taken care of, your hotel. You guys spend a few days here in Vegas. My dad ended up going with me. He drove me down. I didn't know how I was going to fly. And I hadn't flown, and being paralyzed at that time. And that was my first engagement. And then I started to do the math. Hey, $500 for an hour, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's not a bad income.
Right.
Yeah.
So I started to develop some an outline and a business strategy. And it all started. I can relate every talk that I've done, which has now been 20 years in the makings, and all those countries, 89 and all 50 states, traveling up until COVID, about 25 plus days a month, to that one speech. I can tie it all to that church talk.
Wow.
It all started there. So that's how it happened. That's exactly what happened. So
That's great.
Well, Chad, let me ask you. You shared some personal struggles that you've gone through and that are pretty personal to you. And what advice would you give to people who have those same thoughts and struggles in their life right now?
That's another great question. As I've traveled, I've met so many wonderful people that we always try and put our best face forward. But I've met also many people who look great on the outside and post great pictures on social media, who are just dying on the inside. And that, truthfully, I've met people that have full function of all their limbs that are more paralyzed and trapped than I will ever be in my lifetime. And the advice that I would give is very, very simple. Just because it's the way that it's always been done does not mean it's the way that it always has to be done in the future. We're going through that right now with COVID. The world will be changed forever, and I think that's a great thing. I don't think that death is necessarily a great thing, so don't hear the wrong message in my messaging here tonight. I don't think that people that have died is a great thing, but I do think that what lies ahead is even better than what we've experienced. I would have never said that 20 years ago. In the depths of my despair and my own self-pity and empathy, but I would never change what happened to me, because without that, I wouldn't have met all these people across the world, created this network, mastermind groups, this business, and developed a greater appreciation for my wife's service towards me and her commitment when she said for better or for worse. I think I made the same commitment. I just don't know that I've lived up to that. She has, and I know we say things like that, but I don't think any of us plan on having the love of our life take care of us physically. I mean, just picture that for a second, Jason, Shane.
Yeah.
Picture the love of your life taking care of all of your needs. Again, I'm not looking for pity. I'm just saying I didn't plan on that. And so Shondell has taught me a lot of what we talked about tonight about unselfish gratitude and just being real and being happy. And if I'm happy, it has that roller coaster effect with everybody else in the home, including the dog. And if I'm unhappy, the dog can tell, and so can the rest of the family. Just the dog is quicker to forgive me than the family. And so I think that we need to realize that just because I've gotten pants on a certain way, or just because you've worked this job for so long, or that the economy's been this well for so long, or that maybe you've never experienced a pandemic or a crisis in your life, or just because you've been used to something or a certain behavior or habit does not mean it's the correct or the only way to do things. And when I look at the world from that kind of a lens, more opportunity presents itself in that process. And so that's the kind of lens that I'm approaching today's world, with all the distress and the sickness and the illness and the catastrophe that took place just recently in Lebanon, beautiful city, but already a impoverished country, with the explosion that went off, and so many other explosions that go off in people's lives. We have to adapt to change. That's what I would tell people to do. Look at change and be willing to just jump on it. And the longer you wait, the more pain you'll experience.
That is
That's pretty profound.
Yeah. I've never met your wife, but she sounds like an amazing lady, such a strong person to support you the way she has. I'm sure both of you give and receive from each other, so that's really awesome. How do you keep such a positive outlook on life?
Well, you're just hearing it on the podcast, but I'd be lying if I didn't have bad days. I mean, I've been home now. Today's, we're the first week of August, guys, doing this podcast. And I know it's going to be released here sometime in the near future, but if we're looking at August 5th, that means the pandemic's been going on now for 6 months. And I really struggled the first 2 months, maybe 2.5. And when I say struggled, I would rather go back and break my neck again. That's a strong statement, but because I've probably forgotten a lot of what I went through. But I thought, through some of these challenges that I've gone through the last with COVID and changing, not just being gone in a way, but I've realized that me being gone has been really my medicine of choice, my drug of choice, to not have to have my wife do those things to help me that other people help me with on the road. That, I'm not in love with those people. I do love them, and I'm grateful, but I'm not in love with it. There's a difference. And so, I'm grateful for all the home health people and the bellmen and the Uber drivers that help pick me up and do more than their job, and the people at the airports. I'm the only quadriplegic known of by Guinness that travels the world alone. Now, I'm not saying that to be arrogant. I'm just simply saying that I don't think that God made any one of us to be like anybody else. And my dad certainly didn't want me to be like other people in chairs that just sit. He wanted me to be different. And so with that in mind, I've tried to do just that. And so I am a quad that travels alone. But the truth is, I'm never alone. There's always people, even if we don't speak the same language. Love is not a barricade to service and to kindness, and language never was a barrier to that. And so as I've looked at people in the eye and they can see that I need a little bit of help getting loaded up in a vehicle or an SUV, they just come pick me up and throw me in. And like at the hotel, people help me out. And so the truth is, here's the principle. The more dependent I am on other people's strengths, it better compensates for my weaknesses physically, mentally, and spiritually. And so when you talk about positive attitude, I've really had to rely on that. How do I maintain a positive attitude? The statement is true that we've all heard. You will behave and act like the 5 people that you hang around the most. So right now, I'm really trying hard to hang around Shondell. I'm trying very, very hard to hang around my 2 older boys, and I'm trying hard to hang around my 2 younger children. There's 5 right there, because they're teaching me day to day, being at home, working from an office, going to a virtual platform rather than an airplane platform and a hotel platform, how to be married again, how to accept her help with gracious acceptance, not fake. Like we hear about fake news, not fake gratitude. My wife can tell the difference. And so
right.
I have to be genuinely grateful, and the silent treatment is not the answer. Boy, I've learned that one. I mean, sometimes I'll just shut right up because I'm afraid of saying something wrong, but then if I don't say anything at all, it hurts her even worse. And so, we got to talk through this and just talk like you and I are talking tonight, and all will be well. All will be well if we can just talk through some of these challenges. So you don't have to be paralyzed or have a bomb go off in your country to go through a crisis or a pandemic. I think a lot of people are going through some of those same feelings right now. And these principles that I'm sharing tonight are principles of truth that will help people get through them.
Yeah, absolutely. I love your passion. That I can feel that just from you talking, and I really do. I can feel your love for your family, because I love my family just as much. So I appreciate you sharing those feelings, those deep feelings you have. What we, me and Shane, we talk a lot about hope, and how, especially in today, how do we find hope, and how do we work through that?
My philosophy around hope is very, very simple. I can answer this real quick. There's no such thing as false hope, only false hopelessness. Because for everything that we think that we know or that we do know, there's so much more that we don't about a vaccination, about loving diverse people, protest. There's so much more that we don't know. Tomorrow will be a better day. So for everything that we think that we know, technology, vaccinations, medicines, social media, for all that we've been blessed to have, there is so much more that we have no clue about. And tomorrow will be a better day. So that's my philosophy on false hope versus false hopelessness. And people should always maintain that hope that tomorrow, and I didn't say next week or next month, but tomorrow morning will be a better day. And that's the way that I try and wake up, right now, today. I try and wake up that way every single day, that today's going to be a good day, and then it will come with challenges. And as long as I approach those challenges with humility and gratitude, I'm going to be okay. And as long as I try and have courage to get through those changes and try new things and get my pants on differently, wear different shirts and shoes that are a couple sizes too big, and so I can get them on with my wrist, and brush my teeth differently and eat food that doesn't make me congested. Today, I'm just naming a few things that I've had to do over the last 20 years to change to conform to my body and to my mentality and to my spirituality. Change is a marvelous thing. It's a great teacher. Pain is a great teacher, and hope is the end result of that.
Yeah, that is so good. We talk a lot about hope. That's in our podcast name. We also talk about fear, and that everybody's going through life, and we all have fear. We all have hard days and bad days, and is there anything you fear?
Yeah, I mean, I used to fear, just contacting people to try something new, or fear the social media recording or the Facebook Live, and that fear just kept preventing me from doing it. And once I just took action and changed that fear into confidence, marvelous things started to happen. I mean, fear is fear and confidence cannot exist in the mind at the same time. There's absolutely no way. It goes back and forth. So I used to sit there and just fear social media, or fear, putting myself out there, or say to myself, who's going to hire somebody in a wheelchair to go speak to their group? And here we are, we've done it. And now we've got to find out how to overcome our fear of new platforms. And we're doing it, It doesn't happen overnight. We're doing it consistently over the last 4.5 months. It took us a month and a half for me to really say to the staff, hey, we are going to do this. And then even after that, I kept saying, I just don't, that fear would creep up. What an enemy it is. Fear is the opposite of courage. And so we have to have courage to move forward. And again, with that adaptation to change and having that courage to move forward, take that leap. I relate it kind of to waves, just right now, we've been used to riding this wave where we've had the same job for years, and our kids haven't had to wear masks, and we haven't had to wear masks. We've been riding this wave, and this wave's been good to us, and we've been content on this wave. And now we have to ride a different wave. And I'm just proud of the people that don't get off the wakeboard.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
have to stay on the board. Stay on the board and ride the new wave. If that wave's a little steeper, a little faster, it's okay. It's okay. If you fall off a couple times, I mean, that's what they say when you fall off the horse. Get right back on that horse quickly. Otherwise, that horse is going to sense your fear, and you'll never be able to ride that horse again. So as soon as you get bucked off that horse, get right back on that horse. Not to discipline the horse, not to be mean, but to show that you have confidence. That horse will learn that real quick, and then it'll know that it can't buck you off again. Get right back on. So
yeah, I love that a lot.
Taking control, accountability. Sorry about that, Jace. Shane, go ahead.
No, you're good. I just in closing here, Chad, I want to ask one more question here. How would you define success, and what would you say about success?
It's a great way to end. Success is simply knowing that those that know you the best love and care about you the most. It's not money. It's not worldly things, or how big's my house, or how do I have a boat, or how many head of cattle do I have, or what's some of the savings account. Or success is simply defined: do those that know me the best love and care about me the most? Because if I do not have those people on my side fighting for me, who do I got?
Right.
That's my definition of success. And as a last note, I would just caution our listeners to be very careful with what they're believing right now about tonight's message, because whatever they think about tonight's message will dictate their actions as soon as we hit stop. And actions always dictate the results that we get in our life. It all starts with what's happening in your head right now. What do you think? What do you think about this Hope podcast? What do you think about, Shane and Jason putting this together? What do you think about a couple of principles we talked tonight? Again, I'm not saying Chad Hymas. I'm not asking you to consider my name. I'm just saying, what do you think about the principles that we've talked about? Because whatever you're thinking will dictate action. Action will dictate results. The lack thereof or the prosperity. You get to choose that tonight.
Yeah.
Wow.
I have really enjoyed picking your brain. I love how your brain thinks and what you've shared with us. I certainly have really enjoyed your message and can feel the passion behind what you're saying, and truly believe that you believe what you're saying to us. So I really appreciate you sharing the message that you have. To be successful, I am sure that you can say that you are successful because you said it's the people that are around you, and that your family is lifting you up and helping you, and I'm sure that you are doing the same to them. So from me to you, Chad, thank you so much for sharing your message with us. We really appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks, gentlemen, for having me tonight. I've really enjoyed it.
Thank you, Chad. I appreciate everything that you shared with us.
I appreciate the opportunity. You guys have a blessed night with your families, and look forward to joining you again in the future.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Chad.
Thanks, guys.
This is Sprinkled with Hope. If you liked this episode, please share it with a friend.
If you like our podcast, please give us a review or rating.